hello, and welcome to the Streaming Parson Podcast. And yes, we are doing this again, kind of. So this is actually the first time I've actually done a live video of me talking about D4DJ, which I've talked about a numerous amount of times throughout like my more recent videos, because if it wasn't obvious, I've become quite engrossed in it. I'm quite the fan. Not to mention, going into the weird territory, but for some strange reason, out of all the stuff I post on this channel, between the Bible reading and all the strategy games, it's when you hear me talk about underage girls is the stuff that gets views. So I guess that's what we're doing. I'm probably on some sort of list. But today we're gonna do kind of a tier list, but it's not a tier list. But rather we're gonna talk about D4DJ and anime tropes, kind of, or a particular anime trope that is used, and D4DJ just exhaustively uses it. So, and then of course I'll kind of talk about like story tropes at the end of this whole thing. And don't hesitate to throw questions and stuff as we go along, because I'm aware that not the most people are super familiar with Dig Delight Direct Drive DJ. But I mean, you guys are here, so I assume you guys have some interest in this. So today we're going to talk about the four girl gang trope that's utilized in Dig Delight Direct Drive DJ. And yes, I have to use the full name a couple of times in this video just to show my eloquence that I'm not, just some pleb. But now I just refer to it as D4DJ. And the four-person gang is basically when you have, well, as the title implies, you have four girls, and they fill particular tropes. And something that D4DJ utilizes is that each of the groups, for the most part, there will be some exceptions to the rule, and we'll cover that when we get there. Each member of a particular unit has to fulfills a particular trope in the four-girl gang. Now, you're probably wondering why anime writers do this, because something that I guess one of the things that, like, okay, if you ask a person like if they watch anime, a lot of people may be turned off because anime can be very tropey. And what they mean by that is, they just like rely on these kind of cheap ways of storytelling, and that's not like litmus of like an actual skilled writer. And there's some merit to that. There is some truth in that. But fundamentally, the reason why tropes are used is because it allows a simple way to make identity to a character. And Dig Delight Direct Drive DJ has to utilize this because in the grand scheme of things, D4DJ is more transmedia advertisement than it is like its own cohesive anime. If you compare it to, D4DJ is not Demon Slayer. It's not One Piece or anything like that. That's why you're not gonna get like, D4DJ representation, in anime convention in a place like Vancouver. It just doesn't happen because it was never meant to be like a mainstream anime. It's just D4DJ was designed to be a transmedia advertisement. And of course that advertisement was for the actual bands, because groups like Happy Around, Peaky Peaky, and Photon Maiden, and all of them really are actual bands. Call of Artemis not so much, but all the other ones are all actual bands, quote unquote bands. I use that word bands in the same way that, the Backstreet Boys were a band in the 90s. Like, they're not a real band. And some people would be like, well, they don't play their own instruments. They're not a real band. But aside from that, they were a band. Whoops. They were a band in the 90s.
The new A&W
oh crap,
spicy
I did not mean for that to happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen ever again. I'm sorry. I'm just a real high quality video making here. If that keeps happening, I may have to resort to using something else for my background audio. But I was just hoping to like have something used, so there's not just like empty noise in the background. I'll see if that happens again. If it does, then if that does happen, we'll fix that later. But anyway, back to my transmedia explanation. So, the anime of Dig Delay Direct Drive DJ was kind of used to like advertise the bands. But of course, in the original first mix, it was mostly about 3 of them, well, mostly about 1, and then featured 2 other ones. It was mostly about Happy Around Him. Then it featured Piki Piki and Photon Maiden. But the interesting thing is that instead of talking about like the real life singers of Happy Around, it made a fictional world of which a version, an alternate reality, quote unquote, Happy Around formed, and that was what First Mix was about. Of course, even that was transmedia advertisement because they already had, they were already, at least, okay, let me word this better. When First Mix was first airing, they already had Groovy Mix, which was the mobile game. That game was already completed, and they were basically going to launch the game when the series ended. To be like, hey, we're establishing this franchise D4DJ, and yeah, we got the anime, which just finished. Yes, we've been promoting the bands, but we want to promote the bands further with this game, and then that's where Groovy Mix comes in. And Groovy Mix was where they did a lot of the explorative writing to create entire fictions for the band characters, and created whole new characters for that fiction. That's basically I'm trying to explain what transmedia is while talking about like how D4DJ works. So, with that said, when you're trying to make a quick sell, because at the end of the day, this is a business. When you write these characters, and when you make at first 24 characters for the 6 original bands that they're advertising, you're gonna have to rely on tropes, so that tropes are easily identifiable markers for the characters that you're exploring. And then of course you can make certain dimensions to this and delve into this a little bit, but to really do that you need to have people that are like very motivated to be invested in your product. And so that's a tricky thing to do, because of course if you play through Groovy Mix, you get to explore you explore the characters in different stories, explore aspects of their character that goes beyond the trope, but the trope is used to instantly grasp a character, and you get a general idea of what that character is like and how you could tell stories with a particular character because they have a certain trope. And so that's kind of how tropes operate in fiction, and especially in D4DJ. So with each group having 4 members, you can easily categorize each of them into these 4 particular categories, because D4DJ, once again, you want to make your advertising pitch easy for your audience. And so you're going to use the same 4 tropes and then put each girl in each band into a particular trope. So I could safely create 4 categories. And the 4 categories are, seeing that D4DJ is a Japanese anime, I mean, is it a Japanese anime when you don't have cute girls in it? So you got your cute girl. And of course, to somewhat, okay, this is dumb. I'm just gonna get rid of that. I'll find something to put as background music in a second. I'm just gonna sort out the 4 categories. I guess the background music wasn't working because YouTube. I can't. YouTube is just gonna be like that. But I'll fix that in a second. Anyway, the second category, if you have cute girls in an anime, because it's Japanese anime, so you have to have cute girls in it. The next category would be obviously the hot one. And then, of course, you have the girl with the most personality. But it's always played off in a very fun and cool fashion. So we got the cool girl. And finally, the 4th category, we got the fat girl. Rinku, you go there. And so, basically, I'm basically claiming that all the members of D4DJ fit into these 4 categories. Because once again, the writers do this so that there would be a simple way of easily making identity markers for the characters at like not a first glance. You would have to read at least one story to see this. But what Groovy Mix actually accomplishes is that if you play through Groovy Mix, you can have like when you look at all the characters and you like click on them a little bit, they'll say certain lines. They got their NPC lines, and their NPC lines kind of highlight aspects of their character. Although there's some exceptions to this, and I'll talk about this a bit as we go through identifying each character and which of the 4 tropes they fall into. So, Rinku, you're the fat girl of Happy Around. So, as you notice at the bottom here, you can't see the whole thing, but I have all the characters lined up in basically the group's orders. So we have Happy Around, Piki Piki, Photon Maiden, and so on. And we'll do each group and talk about how each member of said group fits in these 4 categories. So Rinku's the fat girl, and the show makes no secret of this. If it was the first, I guess the first moment of Rinku being like the fat girl, if you will. Like, sure, girls like high school girls like to eat, so I wouldn't pick like the very first scene where like in first mix, Rinku's having lunch and then she like interrupts her own lunch to hear Wild War Tonight, and then barges in on Maho. But rather, it's the scene where I think it's the 4th is the 4th episode? I think it's the 4th episode. It's the one where that introduces Ray. And after Ray starts composing their song, the Make My Style, Mooney and Rinku are having a conversation, and basically Mooney just out says it's like, how do you eat so much and not get fat? And Rinku's like, because food is delicious. Of course, Maho makes like the offhand comment of like, this sounds like a conversation, but it's not, because Rinku's just being a fat girl that she just loves to eat. And then of course you get to episode 7. Yeah, episode 7, which is the Christmas episode, and you know, Rinku's just having that like eating montage moment, so like totally a fat girl. And so yeah, Rinku's the fat girl of Happy Around. Then we're gonna talk about Mooney next, even though Maho is technically the 2nd member, but Mooney's the easy one to talk about. She's the cute girl of D4DJ. Or sorry, of Happy Around, not of all of D4DJ. That goes to someone else. Before I explore more on the Mooney being the cute one, I am going to fix the music thing, so just give me a second here. There. Now I fixed the mute. I fixed the background sound. Now there's something in the background, so it's not just like my voice and then like empty air behind me. And I just gotta find ways to dodge copyright issues. So you get this track. Anyway, so back to Mooney being the cute one. I mean, her whole thing is that she views herself as being like the cutest thing in existence. And of course, this is explored further in the story, that it's part of, it seeps into Mooney's need of like validation. And that Mooney, there's this weird like complex that Mooney has, where she has this constant need of validation. And then on top of this, this feeds into like a kind of narcissism that Mooney has. And so the way she projects this idea is her view of herself and how cute she is. And so this is I think it's done pretty well in Groovy Mix. And then she gets called out a number of times for it, mainly by some of the older members like Hero. Really just Hero. And then of course Mooney's her ego, I guess, is challenged when, well, there are other girls who are very cute in D4DJ, and then Mooney competes with them all the time. Mooney sees them as rivals and like this, who is the cutest, and Mooney's belief that she herself is the cutest girl. And so it's pretty clear that the way that they show Mooney being the cute one is, well, she likes very, very girly outfits and clothing articles. And on top of this, you know, she puts on the bunny ears. So it's a sign of her being really cute. And it's supposed to be like the cute marker that makes her stand out. Because once again, like Mooney has this whole thing where she lacks validation. And she wants to be well loved and well received, and that's the whole point of the whole "Give Me Awesome" song. That's the whole point of it. Next we have Ray. Ray falls into the cool category. I guess every time I pick like 3 members, you can I kind of spoil the last one, but we'll talk about Ray next. So Ray, she's the quintessential dark-haired beauty. And this goes not just within D4DJ, where she has a like mysterious side to her, but you think of like animes in general. If you have like, you know, your muscle-headed blonde protagonist, you'll usually have a dark-haired beauty who's cool and collected to contrast the muscle-headed blonde. So the classic example is Sailor Mars to Sailor Moon. So Sailor Mars, who's also named Ray, Sailor Mars is the cool, collected, and dark-haired beauty in Sailor Moon, whereas like, you know, Usagi is kind of a bonehead. And she's very impulsive, and so they're two very different natures. Conflict and contrast each other. Now, within D4DJ, that doesn't necessarily happen with Ray and Rinku. Rinku's headbutts happen more with her and Maho, because Maho's the supposedly level-headed thinker. But Ray definitely gives off that dark-haired beauty kind of vibes. And that was added on more. And once again, I talked about this quite a bit during my tier list, my original tier list. This technically isn't a tier list, but I'm using Tier Maker to do it. But in my tier list, I talked about how Shizaki Kanon, the original voice actor for Rei, added a depth to Rei's character that a lot of people felt like Rei lost when they changed actors. Nothing against the new actor or anything, but that like more deeper and that deeper voice that Kanon gave to Rei really emphasized that trope very, very well. And if you watch First Mix, which was voiced by Canon, and you would easily see that. And so that dark-haired, mysterious beauty is kind of played in Rei's character very well. And the nice thing about talking about Happy Around first is that they're the clearest examples of the four-girl gang trope using, or sorry, the four-girl gang archetype using these four particular tropes. And this trope exists in other animes outside of D4DJ. Another music anime that I like quite a lot, Bocchi the Rock, also uses the cute, hot, cool, and fat girl tropes. Where Bocchi's actually, well, we'll talk about Bocchi last. Kita is the cute one. You would have, what's the bass player's name? Why do I keep forgetting her name? The bass player would be the fat one, actually, because she's always in scenes eating. And then Nijika is the cool one, and then Bocchi's actually the hot one. But then the twist in that is that Bocchi always like hides her body with like her jumpsuit, and her bangs always cover her face. So you normally don't see it. But then when Bocchi's kind of pulled out of that shell from time to time, forced to wear like other outfits, especially that in the anime there was in the near the end of the season where Bocchi was working in the maid cafe, and all the girls were like, holy moly, like Bocchi's actually super hot as a maid. Because Bocchi's supposed to be like the hot one of the group. So even Bocchi the Rock uses these particular tropes, because once again, it's an easy way to advertise your characters. And of course, Bocchi the Rock is also a transmedia advertisement, promoting Kisoku Band. So there's that. Speaking of the hot one, though, yeah, it's not a question. Maho was designed to be very likable, and part of that includes her physical attractiveness. So, of course, like from a character standpoint, you know, she's very kind, compassionate, and she's got good cooking skills. Basically, as Piki breaks the fourth wall, and they're like, yeah, Maho's like got all this wifey material. Because the kind of funny thing is that like Maho, her whole character dynamic is that like she wants to be a DJ, but she's a far better housewife than she is a DJ, which is very weird to say as an adult man talking about a underage girl. But that was kind of what they were going for when they made Maho's character. And then on top of this, in First Mix they were not remotely shy about it, and then they were even more brazen about it in All Mix. And of course, even Groovy Mix, you know, they were pushing some, they were crossing some lines with how much they wanted to show Maho's body. And it's weird to think that like Maho is the most sexualized character in D4DJ, considering that, you know, she's next to all the mermaid girls, which that's their whole shtick. And then even Hiro, who's like, you know, meant to be a very sexually attractive character, but then like Maho is the most sexualized character in D4DJ. Of course, half of the charm in her writing is that she herself, either one, is unaware of it, which is where some people get that theory that like Maho may have autism, but I'm not totally on that camp. I think Maho's just a little bit in denial, and kind of airheaded at times, because they have to balance her competency with some kind of like character flaw, so that she can't be perfect. So she's kind of an airhead to sometimes nullify her competency. That's kind of the humor played behind her character. And part of that airheadedness of hers leads her to either just straight out denying, or maybe she really is unaware that, like, yes, she is very sexually attractive. And so there's even that one moment in
Groovy Mix, the second D-Fest event, which was like a year ago, more than a year ago, which is crazy to think. In the second D-Fest, there's a part where like all the groups get mixed, and then Maho's like teamed up with, she's teamed up with like Esra, Hiro, and Marika, and then Maho's just like, what am I doing here? I don't belong in this group. And then of course like the audience is probably laughing at her because it's like, of course you do, because you're all hot. Which is kind of meant to be like the meta joke on that, but yeah, Maho's easily the hot one. And I've already spent way too long talking about one group, so let's move on. As we go through this, it'll become a lot more obvious, but I used Happy Around to explore these tropes and how they're used. And so I'll just give, like, as I put the next groups in, I'll kind of just give a few examples to back up my claims. But then, like, most of it, hopefully at this point you guys have figured out how these tropes work. And then now the rest of the video is just me having fun, categorizing a bunch of girls in these 4 trope categories. So next we have Kyoko, fat girl. And I made fun about this in my tier list about how Kyoko looks like such a hypocrite, where she makes fun of Rinku for being a fat girl. But as soon as you start playing Groovy Mix, you learn that Kyoko's the fat girl. Because Kyoko's all about, like, eating burgers. Everywhere she goes, she wants to try a burger. The first thing she wants to eat is a burger. In recent events, that actually happened in the Nova story. Goes to America, and what's the first thing she wants to do? She wants to go for a burger. So, all the D-Fest events, she wants to eat burgers. Even in, like, the fictional ninja story, the ninja story, where like it's technically a fan fiction, a story made up by Shinobu's grandfather, and the Kyoko in that story is a fat girl too. So, because all they want to do is eat burgers. Of course, unlike Rinku, who has the anime moment of just her having a pig out moment, Kyoko doesn't have that, because of course, Piki, all the members have to maintain some level of coolness to their character. And the anime allows that. The anime allows the Piki girls to maintain their cool element. Which works from the anime standpoint, where you want to make the contrast between, you know, the happy-go-lucky of Happy Around, and of course the insecurities of Photon Maiden. Piki, they look very cool and they're very competent, and that works very well in the anime. But when you play Groovy Mix, they're willing to bend these a little bit and allow the characters to be themselves. And when you see them be themselves, then that's where, you know, Kyoko, figuratively, maybe literally a little bit, lets herself go. Anyway, next we have Shinobu. Shinobu's the cute one of Piki. And one thing, I don't want to skip groups, but one thing I'm gonna cheat when I have to categorize all the quote-unquote cute girls is that Noah allows me to cheat, because Noah will break the fourth wall and just tell you who the cute characters are in D4DJ. I mean, in a way, she views all the girls as being cute for the most part. But Noah is like a clear helper in universe to be like, okay, I know which one of you is the cute girl of your group. And so that, if Noah is useful for anything, it'd be that. No, actually Noah's useful for a lot of things, but you know what I mean. And with that said, like Noah makes a big deal about how cute Shinobu is. This only happens really because the funny thing is, you actually don't see Photon Maiden and Piki interact a lot outside of Ibuki and Yuka, who are like gym buddies, and then like D-Fest. So when you only in the D-Fest events, like, yeah, Noah has like her huge freak out moments about like, oh my god, Shinobu is so cute. But then you don't really see that elsewhere. You don't really see these two groups interact as much, which is kind of weird because in universe they go to the same school. I mean, if these people go to the same school, don't they just like hang out with each other all the time because they're in the same general clique? I don't know. Anime being anime and being weird like that. But yeah, Shinobu. The story goes out of its way to tell you that Shinobu is the cute one. And even like the other three, Kyoko, Yuka, and Esra, kind of bully. I use that word loosely. They bully Shinobu, and then they do it because they enjoy the cute reactions that Shinobu gives them, which is kind of actually terrible if you think about it. So even like within Piki Piki, this is where, like, as I mentioned, the girls are allowed to be themselves in Groovy Mix, as opposed to just being like the cool contrast to Happy Around and Photon Maiden. Next we have Esra. Esra and Yuka were kind of tough to categorize because both of them could they're interchangeable, whether like Yuka could have been the hot one and Esra's the hot one. Or sorry, Esra's the cool one, and then Esra being the hot one and Yuka being the cool one. But I put Yuka under the cool one category because her whole thing is that, yeah, she's a muscle fanatic, but Yuka is very professional. And this is one of the things that, as I mentioned in my tier list of, like, I like Yuka quite a bit as a character. Even though, like, yeah, she's obviously got, like, the whole the American obsessed caricature aspects about it, which is kind of cringy in anime, but anime just does that because, you know, Japanese writers trying to write Americans. But even though Yuka has those elements, something that I actually really like about Yuka is that, and this is a common thing you find in D4DJ, oddly enough, is that for arguably one of the youngest characters, because actually I think Yuka is actually one of the youngest characters in D4DJ. She's only older than the Unicorn girls. I think that's it. Oh no. Yuka is older than the Unicorn girls, and then they added Elsie and Sophia. So basically, at the end of my list here are all the youngest girls in D4DJ. And so, Yuka being like the 7th youngest character now, and yet she acts extremely mature, and she's very professional. And part of it is because she helps run her parents' gym, because her parents are like they're gym owner and gym trainers. And so Yuka's very professional, which I think that's what makes her the cool one. And then that, by process of elimination, forces Esra to be the hot one. But of course, like, I guess within, like, if you look at character designs, Esra shows a lot more skin, so maybe, like, Esra is supposed to be the hot one of Piki Piki because she does show more skin than the other girls. But that's a lazy way of thinking about it. But once again, like, if you're trying to quick pitch character tropes, that's how you do it. The girls who show a lot of skin are going to be your more sexually attractive characters. And that's kind of what I mean when I say the hot one. I mean, a duh. Next we have Photon Maiden. I've said this once and I'll say it again. Saki is probably the cutest girl in D4DJ. She is one of my favorite characters of D4DJ. And I put her at the top of the S tier because she's just amazing. Amazing singing voice, which is also, like, what adds to her cuteness is that the funny thing is that her actor, Riza's, I'm trying to remember the actor's name off the top of my head. I can't remember her last name. But her seiyuu, she did like a very cute voice for Saki, which is what she doesn't normally sound like, which is kind of funny. If you watch any of those, like, the Photon Maiden, like, they used to actually have like a TV series, like a web series that was, once again, it was part of the whole like advertising the bands, and for they started with like Photon Maiden, and when you listen to the actor's name is Samugi Risa or Riza, and she sounds very different in real life than she does when she voices Saki, but when she does Saki's voice, she definitely makes it this really cute, non-intimidating voice. And that just adds on to like Saki being the cute one. And of course, in universe, this is why Noah, she shows a lot of restraint, because Noah is always like in overdrive of loving how cute Saki is. Which, speaking of Noah, let's just do her next. And Noah's a funny case, because Noah subverts the cool category. So, Noah is the whole, like, on the outside, she acts professional. She acts like she's the smart one of the group, because she's supposedly like a straight A student. And then she's very knowledgeable. She can quote philosophers and scientists very well. She studies a lot. There's even that funny moment in my mind anyway, where there's like a little manga four panel mini comic that they put in Groovy Mix, and there's a part where Toa's like asking the girls what they've been up to during Golden Week, which is like a holiday in Japan when they start their new fiscal year. And no, so like Saki, like, okay, I went back to my hometown, and then Ibuki's like, I went on vacation, and then Noah's like, I was studying. And then Toa's like, oh my god, like, that's crazy. Nerd. But then, so with that said, Noah gives off this impression of like she's very serious, she's well educated. But then this immediately just breaks down as soon as she sees cute things, which is all the time, because we're talking about anime here. Everything's cute. So Noah just like turns into a total freak when it comes to cute stuff, which is basically all the time. And so Noah is not cool, and she subverts that cool category and the cool trope, which is, it does get a little bit annoying when it's like all the time. But the idea of Noah subverting the cool trope, I mean, that's what it is. I may not be the hugest fan of it, but it is what it is, and I have to put Noah in her correct category. After all, it's not that she's gonna take the fat category from Toa, because we all know Toa's the fat girl. If Kyoko's all about burgers everywhere she goes, Toa is about crepes everywhere she goes. I mean, there's even the whole Groovy Mixed story about Toa getting sick because she ate too many crepes one day. So, I mean, yeah, she's the fat girl. And the way that, like, in First Mix, they play at this a little bit, like, her and Rinku become fast friends. And how does it happen? Over food. And then, the next time that Toa and Rinku even interact, quote unquote, is over the phone, and they're talking about food. Because they're fat girls. That's the joke, haha. And so, Toa definitely the fat girl. I refuse to believe. So one of the funny things is that I refuse to believe that Toa is only 45 kilograms. And yes, Groovy Mix actually tells you how much each girl weighs, which is, a cardinal sin, because you don't ask a woman how much she weighs. But apparently, Toa is only 45 kilograms, and I refuse to believe that. That is a lie. Which is probably why you don't ask a woman her weight, because you know she's gonna lie. Toa would definitely lie about her weight. She's probably well over 50 kilograms. She's definitely a fat girl. Sure, she doesn't look it, but she is. Now I had to put, even though like Toa's like pretty brazen about like her being a fat girl, I know some people might make the argument that Ibuki is also kind of a fat girl. But with Ibuki, it's more like when she goes on her like eating indulgences, which do happen throughout Groovy Mix. Part of it is because for Ibuki, her eating excessively from time to time is more out of a guilty pleasure because Ibuki's a health freak, so she watches how much she eats. She doesn't eat like greasy food. But when she does, she like gets into it because it's the whole like guilty pleasure thing. And it's a funny little take on like the religious kid, if you will, because Ibuki's kind of played off that way. That she's the religious kid because her dad is like a Shinto priest, and so she technically is a shrine maiden as well. So she's supposed to be very proper, and then on top of that, she's a gym girl, so she works out a lot, and so she's constantly watching her weight and watching what she eats. But then it is fun to see those moments where she like actually indulges. And of course, one of her birthday stories is her and Yuka are eating together, and then she just like goes for chicken wings and pizza, you know, some really greasy food. And Yuka's like, it's fine from time to time, you know, we can treat today like a cheat day because it's your birthday. And then Ibuki just like nom nom. But that doesn't automatically make her like, sure, that kind of makes her a fat girl here and there, but it's not like Toa, who's like always eating. I kind of put Ibuki in the hot one category, kind of out of obligation because, or more like out of process of elimination, because you kind of have to fit all of them here. I mean, we could go like this, but then now the list is all lopsided. And once again, the argument of making her the fat girl doesn't really hold. It's more like a guilty pleasure that she just indulges in from time to time, and not really her being a fat girl. Not like Toa, though. Ibuki's thing is that, like, also she does have, like, a lot of attractiveness, but Ibuki, it's a weird mix of, like, okay, you know that old meme where it's, like, it's so bad that I'm, hashtag terrible pastor moment, but there's that old meme where it's, you know, the three kind of girls, and then the first one is, wants to be dominated, the second one is will dominate you, and then the third one was, will ask you to be gentle. So, Ibuki has a weird mix of, like, she's the girl that will dominate you. kind of thing, because she has, like, a very commanding presence. And that bolsters her attractiveness, and that's why, in-universe, characters are attracted to her. Because she has a very commanding presence. And that's why she's the leader of Photon Maiden. Is because she has a very commanding presence, and that's what makes her sexy. I mean, sure, she's got the good looks too, and she's got the fit body of an athletic woman, but it's that commanding presence that she has that really makes her, like, very attractive, and that's why she's the hot one. Not so much of her physical appearance, which, I mean, is obviously there, but it has more to do with her commanding presence. Alright, the next group we're going to talk about is the Mermaid Girls. And I've kind of noticed this trend where, I guess because lead girls just gotta be this way, Rika being the leader of Mermaid is also the fat girl. So we technically have 2.5 leaders of the D4DJ units fall into the fat girl category. By the way, the half count goes to Rinku. Rinku's technically the reason why Happy Around got together, but Maho is the operative leader. So it's kind of weird of which one of them is actually the leader. Because Rinku is the heart of the team. She's why the team exists. But Maho acts like a leader. She's the one that keeps the unit together and sets them the direction of being Happy Around. So Rinku's the half leader, but like Hyoko's the leader, and then Rika's the leader of her unit, and they're both like fat girls. So the evidence of Rika being the fat girl, is that I mean, the funny thing is that like it was kind of hard to categorize the mermaid girls because one, they all technically count as like the hot ones. Because their whole thing is that awkward. Let me get rid of this. How do I get rid of that bottom thing down there? That is not how you do it. I don't know how to do it. Nope. Yeah, give me a second here. Not that. Not that either. Okay, it's this one, right? So I gotta like fix this one to be. Hang on, give me a second here. I can make this work. I'm trying to like not have that bottom thing in the way. There you go. I should have done it from this side. There you go. Haha! And then I have to do it again at the very end. But basically, you could make the argument that all the mermaid girls are the quote-unquote hot ones, because their whole thing is that they're the like sexy group of the D4DJ franchise. That's their whole shtick. So, I mean, you could make this case, but you know, they also have to fit into the 4-girl gang archetype. So we got to split them up among the 4 categories. Well, and then the funny thing too is when I was thinking about that, they're all also the fat girls because they love eating. I mean, they're part of their whole like character dynamics is that the 4 of them go out and they eat and drink together a lot. Like every other weekend, they're out eating and drinking together. So by the transient of logic, they're all the fat ones too. But then if you think about it, I mean, who's the one that initiates that they go out and have barbecue and drink every other weekend? Well, that's Rika, which is why she's the fat one. So Rika is definitely the fat girl of Mermaid. And of course, I mean, the fact that she's the fat one also makes her like the hot one because I'm gonna make this joke, #terrible pastor, but Rika's got fat in all the right places. I mean, that's her design. But fat in all the right places, but still fat. Sorry, Rika, you're the fat girl. If I had to pick one of the mermaid girls that would fit into like the hot one category, that would have to be Marika. So we're gonna put you 2 back down for a minute. And I make this argument solely on the fact that Marika is the model in universe. So because of this, I guess because of that, she's automatically picked to be like the hottest member of the group. But I mean, that's a subjective term, and the fact that Mermaid having them all be the hot ones, I mean, that's kind of cheating. And if I had to choose one, I would pick Marika simply because she's a model. Which is kind of funny to say that too, because I mean, I could easily see a lot of people disagree with me on this one, because you know, going back with Rika having fat in all the right places, Marika has probably the most like stock body out of all the other girls, which begs the question, you know, her being a model, because technically the other members make better, they have better bodies to be a model. I know it's terrible to say it this way, but they all have better bodies to be models than Marika does. It's kind of weird. I guess that nepotism really works out for her. But, I mean, of course we can't deny that Dahlia is the cool one. She's definitely the cool one in the group. Part of it is the whole, similar to Ibuki, Dahlia has a very commanding presence. But of course with Dahlia, she also has like a very tough girl kind of thing. You know, she's the bouncer at the bar she works at.
Dahlia learn karate so she can fight. And then, of course, you know, the funny thing is that in Groovy Mix, they re-released the story chapters of an old event. One of the earliest events of the game. And that was when the mermaid girls, they go to Marika's room to clean it up. Because Marika's like a total slob. And so, while they're cleaning Marika's room, Marika freaks out because there's like a spider in her room. And then Rika and Sari don't even go near it. But Dahlia's just like, you know, no big deal. Puts the spider in a cup and sends it outside. She just gets rid of it. You know, without a sight, like no hesitation, no problem for Dahlia, because Dahlia's the cool one. She doesn't get freaked out by ordinary things like that. Of course, the subversion to that is that Dahlia is like deathly afraid of ghosts. And the idea of like horror movies and stuff like that, like she's deathly afraid. Which the funniest thing would be Miko and Dahlia interacting, which you don't see that because of course Miko loves Miko. Sorry, I don't keep saying Miku. Miko loves like horror movies and ghost stories, and so the complete opposite of Dahlia. That'd be a pretty fun dynamic. It'd be pretty funny. But that's a subversion to her coolness, but most of the time when you see Dahlia on screen, Dahlia's the cool one. She's very domineering in presence. And she's a tough girl. She's someone who could easily take care of herself and even be able to beat up a lot of guys in a fight. And then of course, Sari's the cute one. Of course, like, I think this, I mentioned this in my tier list with Sari as well, but I think there's, like, obviously all the mermaid girls supposed to be, like, very attractive, but I think there's, like, a cuteness to Sari that adds to that in my mind, and that's why I actually like Sari quite a lot, like her designs, out of all the mermaid girls. Sari has a cuteness that the other girls just don't have, and I think it really adds to her design. I think the short bob cut is also really cute on her as well. And so I also had to kind of put Sari in the cute one category out of a process of elimination, because I didn't really have another like Sari doesn't really fit into the other category. I mean, she doesn't fit into the cool category, that's for sure. I could try and argue that Sari is definitely the cool one in more recent mermaid related events. Like in the Mermaid Side Nova story, Sari was definitely the cool one in that story. Where when you see how much Sari has matured from the very nervous, insecure girl that Sari was portrayed as at the beginning of the story of Groovy Mix, compared to where she is now. And, you know, throughout, like, Groovy Mix, it's one of the funny things where I have this theory that if you were to pick a main group within Groovy Mix, I think that group would be Mermaid. The Mermaid girls are kind of the characters that get the most story development throughout Groovy Mix. Of course, in recent times, there's a bit of a pause to that because, you know, the whole Unicorn Abyssmare thing. But I guess part of it is because, you know, Happy Around had first mix and it's a whole origin story for them. But with Groovy Mix, a lot of the stories, when you see like actual growth in characters, most of that happens with the mermaid girls. And Saori is one of the characters that grows the most. So like Rika grows quite a lot throughout. Well, that's not true. Rika is probably the one who changes the least out of the mermaid girls, but Rika's whole thing, and why I made Rika an S tier in my tier list, was that Rika's function in the story is that she allows everyone else to grow. So she allows the other mermaid girls to grow for sure. And then there's a lot of development with her and Tsubaki. And Tsubaki is probably the character with the most growth
character development and growth, and that's mainly because of her dynamic with Rika, of all things. Which is also why Rondo and Mermaid have a lot of cross events, not just like they had quite a few events in Groovy Mix where Mermaid and Rondo hang out together. But then, of course, like Double Mix was all about that. Like Double Mix was all about that dynamic between Rika and Tsubaki. And so Rika allows other characters to grow, and aside from Tsubaki, Saori is the other character who grows the most in Groovy Mix. And even though I've said this, that like Saki may be the best girl in D4DJ, objectively, Saori is actually my favorite character. Yeah, my opinion has changed in recent times. Because if you asked me like a year ago who my favorite character was, I might have just picked Saki, because Saki is basically the best character. And then like maybe Maho as well, which is partly why I put them in S tier. But in actuality, I think Saori is my favorite character in D4DJ because of how much she's grown. Because at first I actually didn't like her because she was like overly nervous all the time, and it's like, oh, she's that boring trope. The nervous pessimist. But as she developed through the story, I think that made me really like her. And in a way, I think that's what makes her really, really cute. Now, I know I'm putting Saori in the cute category on like a meta level kind of thing, which I know some of you might call this as like totally cheating, but Saori's character development is what makes her cute. Because, you know, you pick up D4DJ, and if you want to get some kind of story value out of it, that's where you're going to find it. You're going to find it in those cute moments where characters actually change and it makes you feel all like warm and fuzzy inside. Saori is the character that does that the most for me. And that's why I think she's really cute. And that's why she gets to be in the cute girl category. Oh boy. You know, with that said, I'm gonna just cheat and say that's what also makes Tsubaki really cute. Now, at first, I was actually gonna, when I made the original script of this video, and yes, I do have like a base script that I'm following, but I'm not like, I'm only loosely following it. I mean, all this script has is just who goes in what category. But for Tsubaki, I was really gonna place her up here last compared to her other members, because the other members have very clear tropes that they fall into. And then I kind of put Tsubaki and cute kind of like as process of elimination. But in the same way that like Saori was, she's the cute one because of how she makes you feel good as you read Groovy Mix stories. All her stories make you really have that like heartwarming feeling, and that's what makes Saori cute. Tsubaki is very similar. Of course, in Tsubaki's case, it's more about how her maturity and you watching her mature, that makes her cute. That makes her attractive. See, unlike, say, Dahlia or Ibuki, where their attractiveness comes from how commanding they are and how strong and independent and confident that they are, with Tsubaki, it comes more out of the inverse of that. Her cuteness, her attractiveness comes from the development of achieving something more than what she has to offer at first. Because of course, sure, she's talented, but she's very aimless and is unsure of herself. But as you watch her start to believe in herself, that tickles that, like, oh, she actually is really cute. You know, the whole closet cutie trope, I guess you could say. So she's the closet cutie trope. So the closet cutie trope, basically, this is used not just in anime. Anime does do this a lot. I made this reference with Bocchi the Rock earlier as well, but the closet cutie is the character that like at first they don't have a lot going for them. Usually they're loners, and usually they're pessimistic about parts of their lives, and they tend to not be very interesting at first, and they're easily like, they can make the audience easily turned off because their negativity probably rubs people off the wrong way, especially on a first impression. And like your mom probably told you, you don't get a second chance at a first impression. But with Tsubaki, even though she kind of has those like negative qualities, her growth through the story draws out some of those positive qualities, and one of them being that she actually has an adorable side to her. She has very likable. She's very likable in the sense of she possesses good, she possesses traits that people would actually really like in a person. She's empathetic. She's very understanding to the plights of others, and she's very compassionate. See, in contrast with Maho, so once again, Maho was kind of like you had to, Maho followed your mom's advice. You don't get a second chance of making a good first impression. So when Maho shows those kind of qualities of being kind, compassionate, understanding, with Maho they just right at the forefront. Maho is immediately displayed to have those qualities because this first mix really wants you to like her. First mix really wanted you to like Maho a lot. And so they had to like kind of just throw that as like at the forefront of her character, that Maho's kind, compassionate, and so on. With Tsubaki, that has to be drawn out of her. And another reason why Rika is such a great character, and S tier girl, is because she really helps draw those qualities out of Tsubaki. And when those qualities do come out, that's what makes Tsubaki a very likable person. I mean, if you met someone like Tsubaki in real life, like they would be someone that you would definitely put your trust in, because Tsubaki does possess that trustworthy quality to her. And I think that's really cute. And that's what makes her the cute one. Hiro's the hot one. Do I even have to like explain this? Similar to Marika, she's a model, kind of. She's a cosplay model. I mean, cosplay models are models. They're just a different kind of model. They just don't get paid as much as professional models. But you know what I mean? She's a model. And if you watch my Anime Revolution podcast storytelling, you would know that I have huge admiration for cosplayers and their craft. And as bonus points to you if you're a hot cosplayer, which Hiro is. So Hiro's definitely the hot one, and the story doesn't, like, once again, like, Hiro's design is that like she's the Dami mommy, so like being hot just comes with the territory. I don't think I have to explain this. Aoi's the cool one, of course. Part of it's the reason why, like, the whole, like, would Aoi be a trap? Aoi's a trap. Aoi's a trap. I think that's a safe statement to make. Aoi's a trap. Women just fall attracted to Aoi because of Aoi's very cool personality and very cool characteristic, and then they find out, oh crap, Aoi's a dude. But then with Tsubaki, it's like, no problem, still hot. But then, like, there was that funny story with, like, Veronica has, like, a total crush on Aoi. And at first, like, with Veronica's case, Veronica actually thought that Aoi was a guy. And on top of this, like, Aoi was a very cool guy. And, your typical high school girl loves the cool guy. But then, of course, the punchline is that, oh wait, Aoi's not a guy. Aoi's a trap. And a very effective one. Because, of course, Aoi's were, like, the bulk of those lesbian ships in D4DJ just spring all over the place. It's like, and then of course, I mean, you get to like creepy territory, but I mean, come on, I've already crossed that threshold today. So why not just explore that more with like Aoi, for the most part, basically has like a harem of other D4DJ characters. And it's due to that like cool androgynous aspect to the character. And it's played off for laughs more often than not, but I think that definitely like puts Aoi in the cool category. I mean, how is Aoi not the cool character of Rondo, let alone if not one of the coolest characters? At least speaking of the cool category sense, Aoi is definitely the coolest character in D4DJ, without a question. Nagisa fat girl. Nagisa talks about food a lot in Groovy Mix. You don't see this a lot because, once again, one of the things that was kind of wonky, especially when you watch All Mix. Of course, the problem with All Mix is like, what, you got 12 episodes to explore 6 groups? Yeah, you're not gonna give all of them a lot of depth. And you can't explore individual characters all that much without sacrificing other characters. So, for example, in All Mix, for those of you who don't know, which would beg the question why you're even watching this at this point. All Mix was the second season of the anime where they actually had all 6 units work together to help, well, Lyrical Lily. So 5 units helping Lyrical Lily make a city event successful. And, you know, when you only got 12 episodes but 24 characters, it's really hard to actually make certain episodes about a particular character without sacrificing other characters. So examples of this would be how the Happy Around episode is mostly about Maho. It's really just about Maho. And so in doing so, it sacrificed any kind of development with the other 3 girls. Because All Mix did flirt with some ideas that they could explore with more Happy Around story writing. Of course, like, once again, this is transmedia advertising, so All Mix is advertising the game. So maybe the game will go into this more, but even the game doesn't even do this that much, at least not lately. Because, like, okay, let's just taking Happy Around as our example. There's obviously that, like, schoolgirl crush thing that Mooney has with Rinku. But that story doesn't get explored very much because the Happy Around episode is really about Maho. And then once again, this is where like Maho just gets all the attention shoved on her. Even in the episode where Happy Around and Peaky Peaky have to work together and make their collab song, the episode is still about Maho. So in both episodes that focus on Happy Around, those episodes central around Maho. So Mooney's love story is completely sacrificed for this. Rei has absolutely no character development in All Mix because, once again, the rest of the Happy Around girls get sacrificed so that Maho can have the bulk of the Happy Around story arc of All Mix. Now, going back with Nagisa of Rondo and just shoving her in the fat girl category, Nagisa's basically just sacrificed throughout a lot of the storytelling of D4DJ, because in most of the Rondo stories, well, really it's about Tsubaki growing out of her shell. Nagisa is the contrast, where like Nagisa is a very happy-go-lucky, take things in strides kind of character. I mean, there was that whole thing with the legend of the guitar, Canduella, I think is what the guitar is called. There's like that. There was that little story arc, but aside from that, like most stories with Nagisa is like, oh, Nagisa just eats. So she doesn't really do much, and so yeah, I feel like Nagisa gets sacrificed quite a bit in Groovy Mix. There are a few story moments that like are focused around Nagisa, but they don't go in a lot of depth. compared to a lot of the other characters. And so to maintain like interest in Nagisa, Nagisa uses like a punchline, and that punchline is she's the fat girl. Which is funny because I mean you can make the argument Hiro's fat too, in all the right places anyway. So like once again, I kind of put Nagisa out of like a process of elimination because the other three were kind of much more clear cut. And then Nagisa's just like, oh yeah, you're the fat girl because you have to be one to fit the tropes. Next we have Lyrical Lily, and in my mind, they were actually the hardest ones to categorize. Because similar to the whole like mermaid dynamic where you can make the case that all the mermaid girls fit in the hot category, you can make the same argument with like Lyrical Lily and they're all like the cute ones. But unlike the mermaid group, the reason why the Lyrical Lily girls were super hard to categorize in the 4-girl gang tropes was because they don't break away that much compared to mermaid. Like, let me explain. So, even though I said earlier that all the mermaid girls could fit in the hot ones category, Dahlia breaks off by being like, she's the cool one. She's the cool one of the group. And she's very distinct in that quality of her. Rika is distinctly the fat one because she's the one who initiates all their like outings to go eat. So by transient properties, that makes her, you know, the food-loving one of the group, which makes her the fat one. And so these two had very obvious character traits that at least differentiate themselves from, you know, just being part of the hot girl category. They have particular character traits, whereas the lyrical Lily girls are a little bit trickier. And you're gonna see me actually have to run around some loopholes with this one, and I wanted to allocate myself some time for this group because they're gonna be the hardest ones to actually categorize. Well, let's get the easy one out of the way, actually. So, this is just placeholding, by the way. Kurumi is the cute one of the group. The story goes out of its way to have, like, Noah point... This is where I, like, relying on Noah as my cheat card for the cute one of the group. And the funny thing is that, like, in Petite Mix, which was, like, a mini-series of, like, all the... They're, like, little shorts of D4DJ characters interacting. And sure, Noah finds all the Lyrical Lily girls really cute. But Kurumi is the one she fawns over the most, and there's even like a whole story about that. In one of the earliest relation gotchas. On a side note, I'm gonna do another video, another D4DJ podcast, or tier list anyway, about all the relation gotchas. At least all the cross unit relationship events. I'm probably gonna tier list those stories because actually I have a lot to say about those stories. But one of the central themes of one of my central thoughts on the relation events is that I feel like the most thought was put in Photon Maiden and their relation events. I think theirs had the most thought put into it. And one of them, and that for sure comes out in the Noah and Kurumi one, where you really explore a lot of Noah's character. Because of course, before, like, yeah, Noah has her tropey subversion of the cool trope by freaking out every time she sees a cute girl. But in the story, the cute girl and the scary me, at least is what it translates to, is a story that explores where Noah gets that obsession from. And what you learn is that it was when Noah encountered Kurumi, and Kurumi was just the cutest thing she ever saw. And so, because of that, I have to concede that, okay, we're gonna put, oh, sorry. that back. I'll put the sound back on. Because I always run into sound issues today. What is up with that?
The other was split.
Yep. Don't mind the talking background. Okay. Sorry. I don't know why I'm having so many sound issues today. Anyway, back to Kurumi. So, I have to concede that Kurumi is the cute one of Lyrical Lily, because once again, they all kind of are. But this is just how hard categorizing the Lyrical Lily girls are, because I have to like use cheats for all of them in order to pull this off. And so now we're at the hard part where I'm like, okay, what do I do with the other three? Because the other three, they don't really fit into the other three categories all that well. Because in a way, you could make an argument that all three of them are also the cool ones of their group. Because okay, Miyu not as much. So Miko has like borderline American Psycho vibes with her fascination of like horror movies and stuff like that. And so she's a play on the cool type where she keeps herself reserved, but that comes out of this idea of she wants to, her interests are more allocated to things that aren't cute. And so like horror movies and stuff like that. So would that make her the cool one by nature of liking horror movies? I don't know. That you could make an argument for that. You could make the argument that Haruna is the cool one. Because with Haruna, her very proper lady character traits, you know, she's level-headed, she's very professional, and I gave those points to like Yuka and Noah to some extent when they're very level-headed, and then Dahlia as well. They're very level-headed and proper nature. That's what makes them cool. And so you can make the argument that Haruna is also the cool one because of that. And then Miyu kind of has a surprising moment that makes her the cool one, and that's where she really develops like a competitive spirit in the Lyrical Lily Nova story. And she does some pretty badass things. I mean, there's the whole JoJo reference that goes on in that story. And then, you know, she straight up slaps somebody. And so when Miyu developed the backbone, that made her cool. And then, of course, a card I recently got in Groovy Mix was the Nova story, the regular Nova story Miyu card, and it's the one where she's at like a gathering with her father, and then Elsie's also there, and Elsie tries to tempt Miyu into being like a bad girl. But then Miyu is very firm in her conviction to be like, no, I'm not like that. And then like Elsie starts talking like mad crap to Miyu, and then Miyu like takes a stance, and Miyu developing a backbone, like that makes her cool. And so you could make the argument that like all the Lyrical Lily girls fall into the cool girl category as well. So it's tough to say which one of them do I leave in this category before we have to move two of them into other categories. Because, you know, I did in my script, I actually put Miyu in this category because of that. It's actually why I like Miyu a lot too, and why she was A tier for me in my tier list was because I actually really liked Miyu when she developed a backbone like that, and she was very strong in her convictions. I mean, that's Miyu's strength, if you will, is that she has certain like moral convictions and she stands by them. And that in my mind is very cool. So in the same way where like, okay, like Saori's character growth and her coming of maturity is what makes her cute. In the same in a funny twist, that's what makes Miyu cool. Her form of maturity makes her cool in my mind. And so I'm gonna put Miyu as the cool one of Lyrical Lily. Now I know a lot of people may not think that at first, because once again, unlike a lot of the, like, okay, so and this is where, like, how you develop characters, if you will. When I categorized the Happy Around girls, I didn't have to dig that deep, because of course, you know, Happy Around was the introduction, if you will, to the transmedia advertising of the D4DJ franchise. So you have to make the character tropes very, very distinct and obvious with the Happy Around girls. But as you advertise the other groups in, you know, groovy mix, let's say, you can be more nuanced. You don't have to be as blatant like you are with Happy Around. And so, even though I'm using like a later point for Miyu, I still think that that makes her the cool one and bumps the other two out of that category. Now the third member I'm gonna categorize. This is where we get the hot takes. I put Haruna as the hot one of the group, and the reason why this is because her serious nature is actually what makes other characters attracted to her. So there's this funny kind of meta thing going on in D4DJ. And I mentioned this in the tier list, and I'll mention it again. And it's ironic that it's with Haruna I actually bring this up. But you know, you in a franchise where all your main characters are female, if you're gonna utilize any kind of romance story, you're just gonna have to deal with girl on girl action. That's just kind of how it is. And so Haruna, and I brought this up with Haruna last time, and then I'm bringing it up again with Haruna. It's kind of funny how that turns out. And the funny thing is that, see, Haruna is like, what makes her interesting in this dynamic, you know, this whole girl on girl action thing, is that on the one hand, Haruna is like a total simp. She simps for like a number of other girls. So she simps over, well, mainly because of, like, see, Haruna tries to play it off all cool, which I guess would put her back here, but Haruna tries to play it off all cool by saying, like, oh, it's an admiration, a professional admiration to other DJs, because Haruna, like, simps over Aoi for sure. I mean, who doesn't? And then she also simps over Saori. And the excuse Haruna gives is that Haruna is saying, like, oh, it's out of, like, my respect for them as DJs. But then Haruna, like, hard simps for other girls. But the funny twist is that because Haruna is acting so proper, Haruna doesn't realize that she herself attracts other girls. So I mean, once again, you could put her back in the cool category, hanging out with Aoi, because Aoi does the whole attracting girls with the androgynous element as well, which helps Aoi quite a bit to do that. Haruna also attracts other girls because she has the way she presents herself. She presents herself in a way that, like, the average person would think, yeah, I would date this person. And the kind of the because it's all girl cast, you hear this sentiment through female characters. So a lot of other characters, like, well, Kurumi for sure, Miyu to some extent, and then now Sophia, actually, to some extent, because Sophia is like a mad simp as well. They all start, like, being attracted to Haruna because Haruna carries herself in a way that is meant to be attractive.
And so, similar to Aoi, that would make her in the cool category. This is why it's like it was really hard to categorize the lyrical Lily girls. But in the same way, like Maho, by presenting these very likable traits, that makes her the hot one. That adds a level of attraction to that character, which is what they were going for with Maho as well. And so it was kind of hard whether I put like Haruna in the cool or the hot one category, but because I gave the cool one to Miyu, I kind of have to push Haruna to the hot one category. But then now I feel like kind of weird because similar to well, it's not as bad as like Nagisa at least has obvious moments where Nagisa's being a fat girl, i.e., when Nagisa always talks about how good Hiro's cooking is. Nagisa's like, okay, see, at least with that, like when Nagisa frequently comments about how she loves Hiro's cooking, okay, you can get the idea that Nagisa's the fat girl. But Miko, I can't really do that here because Miko doesn't have a moment like that. I mean, this may very well be the moment where this list gets lopsided, because obviously Miko is supposed to be cute, just like Kurumi, and that's why they hang out so much together. They're both like, they're being cute together. But then of course she's also like the cool one because she's very level-headed. I guess the only category Miko doesn't fall into is the hot one, but I may have to lopside this chart from now on and put Miko in the cute one as well. So Lyrical Lily breaks the mold by having two cute ones, and then a hot one and a cool one. But of course, like unlike Mermaid, Mermaid, all their characters had distinguishing qualities that bumps them into other parts of the four-girl gang tropes. But Lyrical Lily doesn't do this as much. Now I know someone could put like... Miko's the hardest character to like categorize, because even though Haruna's quite like flexible, you could put her in any of the other three. Because Haruna does have like fat girl moments. But her fat girl moments are similar to Ibuki, where it comes more out of like, she'll eat a lot in certain events to indulge, because she normally doesn't do that. Because, in Ibuki's case, Ibuki is about health and working out. In Haruna's case, Haruna doesn't pig out because she's supposed to be a proper lady, so she doesn't act that way. But there are times where Haruna's just, like, Haruna likes food. So, but I'm still gonna put Haruna in the hot one category because of my earlier case about how she attracts other girls due to her very proper nature. I wonder when they're gonna explore this story more anyway, because I think the Kurumi Haruna romance story is probably the next most interesting one, because sure they've been flirting forever with Tsubaki and Aoi, but you know damn well that's not going anywhere. And sure there's like the Mooney and Rinku one, but that one doesn't interest me all that much, because Rinku actually doesn't have as many likable qualities. And this is the huge difference of like going back to why I can justify putting Haruna in the hot one category. See, Mooney and Rinku's relationship, and like Mooney's crush on Rinku, sure, like they're childhood friends, and Rinku's charismatic personality, sure, it makes people like her and draws people to her. But Rinku herself doesn't have a lot of qualities that you would think of like Rinku as girlfriend material, if that makes sense. You wouldn't think, you don't look at Rinku and think girlfriend material. Whereas with Haruna, you would think that. Haruna's proper lady character traits is supposed to portray that idea. It's supposed to give you that idea that like Haruna is girlfriend material. And so that is why, Kurumi has this attraction to Haruna. And I think that is an interesting dynamic that Groovy Mix could explore. that like I wouldn't care as much with like Mooney and Rinku, or Shinobu and Kyoko is even worse if you want to talk about that relationship dynamic. I know we're moving away from like just tiering the tropes, but since we're talking about it. The problem with the Kyoko and Shinobu one is that Kyoko's a bully to Shinobu. What does Shinobu actually like about Kyoko? It was like that just makes like Shinobu seem actually kind of terrible, because Shinobu is the equivalent of the girl who can't leave an abuser, which is not a good character that you want to portray. You don't want to portray that as being cute, being like the victim of abuse and staying with your abuser. That's such a bad message to give to people. In a straight or gay relationship, that is not a good thing to portray, like staying with your abuser. Because Kyoko is basically an abuser to Shinobu. You gotta feel bad for her. Anyway, but going back with Haruna, I know I'm like skipping over Miko. I should come back to it, but I really have to defend my position on why Haruna is the hot one of Lyrical Lily. And I think it's because she actually possesses attractive qualities, and it makes sense for like a girl-on-girl romance story to play out with Haruna and Kurumi, I guess, because that's the ship they're going with. Because Haruna has very likable qualities that make her attractive, that makes her the hot one. Okay, that's enough about that. I'm gonna leave that can of worms closed now. I'm gonna close it now. And moving on to Miko. But yeah, Miko. I think because Miko's kind of hard to really pull out, like whether she's the cool one or the cute one, because she bounces between those two categories. But I don't know, just because you're like edgy and don't mind psychologically tormenting your friends doesn't automatically make you the cool one. But you know, looks wise, she is super cute, just like Kurumi. And Noah freaks out about how much Miko is cute as well. So there's that. Thanks, Noah, for bailing me out again. Alright, we got all the main girls done. I mean, technically, I guess the only ones that aren't main girls at this point are the Call of Artemis girls. But we're gonna do them next anyway. So, next we have the Call of Artemis girls. And they're actually the easiest ones to do, actually. Well, aside from Happy Around, because since Call of Artemis doesn't have a lot of content in Groovy Mix, if you're gonna slap on, if you're gonna slap on the 4-girl gang tropes onto them, you have to do it blatantly, just like how D4DJ did it with the Happy Around girls. The Call of Artemis girls were kind of done in the same fashion. So we have Irie as the cute one. I mean, there's that whole, like, she plays the cute barista role in First Mix, where you first see her. I mean, even before that, in the flashback of when Maho's watching the D-Fest concert when she was a kid, you know, you see Irie and she's, like, in this really cute dress getup. So, like, Irie's obviously the cute one. Which then makes, now you think that Shano would be the hot one. Because, you know, she's got fat in all the right places, let's just say that. But I'm actually going to put Shano in the cool one. Because in First Mix, she definitely gives off that impression. As a matter of fact, this is explored a little bit in the Call of Artemis story that was given to us before the second D-Fest event. And in that event, what happened was when all the Call of Artemis girls are talking about getting back together as a group, and we explore Shano's motivation. And I talked about how this is actually what made Shano like the best member of Call of Artemis for me, is that Shano was very clear cut in why she did, in why she wanted to become part of Call of Artemis again, and her clear motivation and her ambitions being spelled out to us is really nice, and it really gives a lot of depth to Shano's character. And part of that is how Shano reveals that she projected onto the Photon Maiden girls her idea of what it means to be cool in the music industry. And so by transient of logic, that would make Shano the cool one of the group, because her whole thing is about being cool. Of course, where she's kind of uncool is that she tried to push that onto other people. Because of course the irony is that even though Shano tried to project this idea onto the Photon Maiden girls, at least in the All Mix continuity, but of course, you run into the problem because All Mix and Groovy Mix are almost two continuities. But in All Mix, what's kind of played at is the Photon Maiden girls come to a realization that they're actually not that cool. They're not that cool. But Noah does bring up that actually in reality, we're a bunch of cute girls. So why don't we just capitalize that Photon Maiden is made of cute girls? I mean, because they're anime girls, so it just kind of flows naturally. But that the cool image that Photon Maiden was supposed to present is really Shano trying to project her image onto other people. Create a music group in her image, per se. So that's why I put Shano as the cool one. Yeah, there's no way you can't say Takoa is the... sorry. Oh, I got a name mixed up. Why is her name slipping my mind right now? See, this is where like the problem is with characters have similar names. So, Kakoa is the unicorn girl, and Takao or Toka. See, it's Kakoa is unicorn girl, and Toka is Call of Artemis. Okay, so Toka is definitely the fat girl. When she's introduced into Call of Artemis, or when she's introduced in Groovy Mix, this is not as obvious. But as soon as they in Groovy Mix, where you can look at all the characters and you can click on them to get them to say their NPC lines. Similar to Toa. See, it gets even more confusing. We got Toka and now we got Toka, and I'm comparing her to Toa. Yeah, it's easy where you can get confused. But just like Toa, who Toa is all about like eating crepes, love crepes, gotta have crepes. Toka's about eating all kinds of things. Like, oh, did I pack lunch? Maybe I should have eaten more breakfast. Oh, one of the funny things is that if you have navigation, Toka, and the game gives you like notifications where like people send you a friend request or people like your club or whatever. If you have Toka as your navigation character, Toka will actually make funny comments about food. So basically, I gotta elaborate on this. So when Groovy Mix, they introduced a new unit type called the navigation unit, which was kind of like a way of doing a third birthday character. A third birthday character without it just being another birthday character, because like the other units all had like 2 birthday cards already, and we moved into the 3rd year of the game. And so they wanted to do something different. So the navigation units were made to do that. And so when the Toka navigation unit came out, I gotta explain the navigation unit again. So aside from just making another birthday card, they made the navigation unit as be like a 3rd birthday card for most of the other characters. Of course, for Call of Artemis, Unicord, and Abyssmare, obviously they haven't been in the game for very long, so they don't have birthday cards. But they have navigation cards. And an extra function that the navigation cards had was they interact. They give extra commentary to stuff in the game. And so if you get like a friend request from someone, instead of the game just saying you have a new friend request, a navigation unit would actually change that text, and it would make it seem as if that character is talking. And so the character will say something in character. And so Miu would say stuff like, perhaps we can offer them some tea or something, or whatever. And then Sophia, which, yeah, despite the fact I put Sophia in F tier, she was like, I got her as a navigation. I was like, oh, really? Not Sophia, but Sophia is all about like, oh, someone is leaving someone wants to be your friend. Please don't let them hurt me. And so the navigation adds like text that's very in character. With that said, if you make Toka your navigation lead unit, and so her navigation unit interacts with you. If someone sends you a friend request or a like to a club, guess what? Toka's talking about food, because she's got food on her mind, because she's a fat girl. That's just how it is. Hey Gauntlets, welcome to the stream. Things are going fine. We're just talking more D4DJ and character tropes, because I wanted something to talk about today. This, by process of elimination, throws Mana as like the hot one. Now, of course, you could make the case that like Shano's the hot one and Mana's the cool one. These two are kind of interchangeable, actually, because okay, let me build my case of why you could make Mana the cool one, and that's because Mana has that whole like high-class girl thing going on. You know, she's explored, she's seen the world. You know, she has tons of life experience. She's ran, you know, tons of clubs all over the world. Or not ran them, but she's like worked in clubs all over the world. She's got life experience. That makes her really cool. That gives her a perspective that many characters don't have. And so, on that alone, you could make the case that she's the cool one. But I put Shano in the cool one category because of the way that Shano spells out the fact that she projected being cool onto the Photon Maiden Girls. And the reason why they are cool, in general, is because of their extensions of Shano's coolness. And so, that's why I put Shano in cool. But you can't deny that Mono is also really good looking. I mean, why else do you think she's popular all over the globe? Because she's hot. Why lie about it? you can't get her. That's just how it is. Hey, attractiveness privilege exists. If you're good looking, you go far in life. And Mono is a sad reality check of that fact. If you're hot, you get far in life. Even if sometimes you don't. Even though sometimes people may feel you didn't earn it, just because you are super good looking. And Mono just reminds us of that. Alright, so moving on to the Abyssmare girls. Do we even have to question this? Neo's whole thing? Oh, I should probably move this chat box. The chat box is kind of in the way, so I'm gonna move the chat box down here. Yeah, I'm gonna put the chat box back down. The reason why I had it moved up was because when I was doing the Annie Rev storytelling, I didn't want it blocking the Miku autograph. But I don't have to worry about that right now. I think it's fine down here. Anyway, yeah, Neo as the cool one. Do I even have to explain this? It's similar to like the hero being the hot one thing. It's like the whole premise of her character is that she's supposed to be really cool. She takes no crap from nobody. Well, at least before her breakdown anyway. She takes no crap from nobody. She's very confident, she's competent. She gives a cold shoulder, even to her own band members, to kind of give off that feeling of, like, superiority. Yeah, she was played off to be the cool one. Elsie's the cute one. Kind of obvious. She's got that whole, like, very innocent look. Of course, the irony is that Elsie herself is actually, like, a very mean child. But that's supposed to contrast the cute appearance that she has. And that's kind of the way the trope is played. So she's the rose with thorns kind of character. She's super cute, but she stings. Like, she's willing to hurt others even, because she's actually a pretty bad person. And, you know, as I mentioned with the Miyu thing earlier, you know, she's willing to, like, say mean things to people and get a ruse out of them, because Elsie is actually a terrible person. But it's her cute exterior is meant to kind of, you know, how do I put this? It plays out that whole, well, I'm cute, you have to forgive me kind of thing. That's kind of the way Elsie is played, and that worked pretty well for, like, you know, when the Abyssmare girls were portrayed as, like, clear villains during the last volume, I guess we'll say, of stories. Next one is actually the hard one. Now, it's easy for some people to think Veronica is the hot one. I mean, she's supposed to appear, like, very attractive. But her birthday card basically said no, because Veronica is the fat one. In her birthday, which was actually not that long, a month ago, almost. She's born in the beginning of August. She's born August 2nd. It's September 1st, so we'll say a month ago. It's so weird to think it's already been, like, the month of August is already gone, and it's already September 1st. Oh, my year is going by fast. But anyway, in Veronica's birthday card, which was on August 2nd, or not her birthday card, sorry, her birthday little, I don't know, what do you call it? As you're playing through Groovy Mix, and you go into, like, you can explore a map of the little town they're in, and you can get little, like, plot pieces as you interact with characters. And so, from time to time, you get some plot advancement during characters' birthdays. And you watch the characters interact each other as they celebrate, you know, a particular character's birthday. So normally how this happens is, okay, using Veronica's birthday last month as the example. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Irie, because it's her birthday today. But anyway, in Veronica's birthday, it just has the 4 Abyssmare girls hanging out, as the other 3 celebrate Veronica's birthday. And then it's revealed that in that scene, Veronica loves eating. She's like, oh my gosh, amazing food, where'd you get this? And then Elsie's like, well, I actually had a chef brought in, and I had a personal chef cook it, because Elsie's, like, comically rich, just like Miyu. And so Veronica's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, I'm gonna just gorge myself. But then, of course, what makes Veronica a great character is that Veronica isn't, like, selfish, you know, like Elsie. And so Veronica thinks about, like, the food's great, but it's not the same without my family. And then, you know, it's like, oh, you know, that heart-hitting moment. You're like, oh, Veronica missing her family back in America while she's stuck in Japan. And so Veronica, you know, she's got that, like, heart of gold, despite her fierce exterior, which is kind of that's the funny dynamic between Elsie and Veronica, because Elsie has the cute exterior, but the very mean interior. Whereas Veronica has the fierce exterior, but she's actually the warm-hearted interior person. Because she's, you know, very caring about her family and she cares about others, including like the other members of Abyssmare. Even Neo, even though like they obviously have their rivalry, and Veronica's always talking about how she's gonna best Neo one day, but Veronica obviously like cares about the other members. Definitely a lot more than Elsie does, that's for sure. Because Elsie's mean. She's a mean-spirited person, whereas Veronica's got a heart of gold. But I guess she also has, you know, a stomach of steel, because she's just like, nom 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 nom, eat. And then of course, like, her first map interaction is her talking about like, she digs strawberry mochi and will like, she's like, oh, I lined up for the strawberry mochi, immediately eats it. Just goes nom 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 nom, all gone, like a fat girl. So originally I would have put Veronica in like the hot girl category, because her fierce exterior is like it's supposedly a huge contrast. It's similar to the Tsubaki and Hiro kind of thing. Where their contrasting natures kind of makes one the cute one and the other one being the hot one. But I thought that originally, but then Veronica's birthday just proved to me otherwise, that Veronica belongs in the fat girl category. Because nom 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 nom. I mean, I guess there's a reason why she's a lot taller than everyone else and bigger than everyone else. Nom 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 nom. Fat girl. Which by process of elimination, and this is probably the hottest take I'm gonna have in this whole video, Sophia in the hot girl category. Now, I made this reference a lot of times in this video already. I should probably do another podcast on a different anime, being Bocchi the Rock and why I love it so much. But for now, I'm just gonna make another reference to it again. There's obviously that parallel. I mean, this is another trope that's used a lot. Once again, not just in anime, but in media in general. The closet hottie, where, I mean, it's just a derivative of the cute in the closet kind of trope, where, you know, once the female characters take off the things that make them look ugly, they're actually very attractive underneath. And so, like, with Bocchi the Rock, once again, like, she wears an ugly jumpsuit and, like, covers her face with her bangs. But then you put her in something else and she's actually very attractive. And, you know, Bocchi goes that extra mile that, like, Bocchi is actually, like, very well figured. Like, she's got a bust on her, and then she's curvy, but then Bocchi covers it up in an ugly jumpsuit. That's why the story has her always wearing it. But then when she wears the maid suit, you see her body, and then it's like, okay, like, Bocchi's supposed to be really, really attractive. Sophia is basically the same, where she wears like this really ugly outfit, which is kind of funny, because when you watch, like, if you watch the Abyssmare concert videos, like the live concerts, because remember, D4DJ is transmedia advertisement. There's a real band called Abyssmare, and if you actually, one of the funny things is, I wonder what they were thinking, because the singer, just look, what's her name again? I have it here. Let me just pull it up here in my notes. The singer's name is Yuka Aisaka. Yuka Asaka is the singer of Sophie. I wonder what she probably thought when she had to put on, like, the uniform, if you will, of being Sophia. Because Sophia, it's funny because Sophia is designed to wear, like, an ugly outfit on stage. And of course, like, part of it is that, like, what's funny is that in universe, Sophia acts like the cool one when she's on stage, but the rest of the time she's not, so it doesn't really. Neo gets the cool one because, like, for Sophia, that's kind of a performance.
as opposed to actually being cool, because she's not cool. That's Sophia's whole problem, and why she's F tier. Like, she's not even a subversion to the cool trope like Noah is. But so going back with like Sophia on stage and Yuka Aisaka being Sophia, she has to wear this really ugly outfit. Because you actually look, it's like one of those leathers, you know, those like leather outfits that like have a little bit of like animal fur on them. Except like, and even Neo's, you see that Neo's actually wearing something similar. It's like a leather top, and it has like fur on it. But with like Sophia, it's like ridiculous amount of fur on the leather. And then of course, the reason for that, if you actually look at her hood carefully, it's supposed to be a wolf. She's supposed to be wearing like a wolf hoodie thing. It's really bad. It looks really bad. There was one reason why I put Sophia in F tier in my tier list, because not only does Sophia have kind of a like really cringy character, and the whole like suicidal thing only made it worse, but like Sophia not only had a bad character, but her design was awful. Her stage design anyway. Her stage design was awful. Because I did not like the dog suit thing at all. I hate this dog suit. That's what it's supposed to be. It's a dog suit. She's in a dog suit. And before you furries go off, please don't. It's so ugly, and it's really cringe. And then of course, like in Groovy Mix, they ham up this, you know, dog suit thing even more, as like Sophia's like worship of Neo. Basically, she worships her, and acts like a slave. Why beat around the bush? Veronica and Elsie make fun of Sophia of being like Neo's dog, and it just like makes it way worse. And so like, oh, it's so bad. And then like, that doesn't make the whole like she looks ugly in this dog sweater. It doesn't make it better. It just makes it worse. But then the game decides to subvert this, and you see Sophia in normal clothes, and you're like, actually, she's not that ugly. So like, you know, similar to Bochi wearing like the first outfit you see them in is like the ugliest thing they could be in, and then they wear like something that's relatively normal. So in Bochi the Rock's case, the first time this actually happens is in the TV series. It's an episode, I want to say it's episode 7, and it's the part when Kida and Nichika go to Bochi, Hitori's house, and when they go to Hitori's house, they learn that she has other clothes, and so they're like, "Oh, please, put on your other clothes for us." And so Bochi puts on, like a white top and like a long dress, not a formal dress, but you know, schoolgirl dress kind of thing, like a long one, not a short skirt like many anime girls tend to wear, but something that like, you know, a schoolgirl would wear in like the winter, you know, the long skirt, I guess you would say it is. And then when Hitori is wearing that, like, it looks really good on her. And so in the same funny way, like with Sophia, when Sophia puts on normal clothes, the game goes out of its way to point out that like, actually Sophia isn't ugly. She's actually kind of good looking. And so it's like, okay, like, are you really gonna like do the whole closet hottie thing with Sophia? If she wasn't wearing such an ugly uniform all the time, she would actually be attractive? Are you trying to find a way to make me like her? Well, I'll tell you this much. It's kind of working. Because, you know, one of the funny things, you know, I put Sophia in F tier, and one reason is because I hate the design of, like, the wolf suit. But I got the Sophia navigation card, and that outfit looks really, really nice. Sophia actually looks really good in it. Even more so than like Kurumi, for instance. Like Sophia looks really good in it. So it's kind of funny that so I guess that's where, like, on the one hand I have to put Sophia in the hot girl of Abyssmare out of process of elimination, but I think Bushiroad is kind of playing at the whole like closet hottie thing with Sophia, and maybe, just maybe, when we get more character cards of Sophia, where she won't be wearing that ugly wolf suit, maybe she'll have better looking character designs. Maybe, just maybe. And maybe she'll move out of the F tier on looks alone. Because apparently she's the hot one of Abyssmare. Maybe. Alright, we're near the end, guys. We're near the end. Just got the Unicorn girls to talk about. Mature fat girl. Yeah, if the earlier story... So when Mitsuru was first... So Mitsuru was in the game for a while before the rest of the Unicorn girls. The Unicorn girls are all new characters. Except for Mitsuru. She had been in the Groovy Mix for a while. And even appears in All Mix. But in All Mix, she's just kind of in the background. And All Mix, once again, All Mix is the whole like alternate continuity. Because it's funny. So, because anime runs into this problem all the time, technically, due to time, well, I would have to do a whole video on this whole problem of... I should do another video, another D4DJ video. Hey, hit that like and throw me some comments about how you want to see more D4DJ content on this channel, if you do, anyway. But with... One of the funny things is, so maybe I'll do that video one day about the split continuity and their massive inconsistencies between Groovy Mix and then the alternate timeline that is All Mix. Because I still treat Groovy Mix as a source material, and then All Mix is just kind of a interesting spin-off of that of Groovy Mix. But I mean, transmedia... With transmedia, you can kind of do that. Because once again, neither Groovy Mix or All Mix are the central piece of the D4DJ franchise. The bands are. So that's why that's why the writers don't really care as much of like consistency problems. But with that said, like Mitsuru runs into like quite a bit, because in All Mix, she has moved up to be like the new PA announcer for Yoba Academy, and then she just spends the rest of her time like streaming videos. Whereas although in the animated universe, they could easily just redo the Unicorn origin, but of course, a Groovy Mix, she's part of Unicorn now, so there's no way she could be the PA announcer in Groovy Mix. And in Groovy Mix, it's the same person that's the PA announcer. She actually has a name, I just don't remember what it is. But in either case, whether it's All Mix or the early parts of Groovy Mix, you don't see this in Mitsuru, because once again, Mitsuru was kind of a solo act, so she can't fit a 4-girl gang trope if she's not part of a 4-girl gang. So there was no need to do that with Mitsuru. Instead, Mitsuru's whole character idea was that she was just like Shinobu's rival. But then that doesn't really fit here. She's just a rival character. Yeah, whatever. But when Unicorn was formed and they had to give her one of these tropes, they gave Mitsuru the fat girl trope. And there were a couple moments, like in late Nova, there's a part where she's hanging out with her uncle, and where are they? They're at a diner, and Michiru's just eating away. Just nom 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 nom. More food, because Michiru eats a lot. I mean, she's a growing girl. And then there's of course the whole thing with like the summer event that we just had with Unicorn. There's a whole thing where like Kakoa and Hayate get hit on by some guys, and then Lumina points out that like even though first year high school girls, but they're like very attractive and they look mature for first year high school girls, quote unquote. Michiru goes like, well, I'm gonna have my growth spurt one day. I eat a lot to make sure that's gonna happen. And so, and then there's that funny, like, in the summer event where you get the Michiru card. It's about her eating, so, fat girl. And once Michiru was, once Unicord became a thing, they incorporated that into her character. It wasn't like a thing in, like, old Michiru, if you will. But it's definitely like a staple of her character now. Next we have Lumina. Lumina is definitely the cool girl of the group. Her whole thing is that she's super cool because she's always collected. I mean, she's an AI program. So she always has like, she always knows how to say and do the right things, mostly. And that's supposed to play off into like her being the cool one. And then of course, you know, she's super serious about her whole becoming the best singer of the universe thing, which adds to that whole cool factor. So Lumina's the cool one for sure. Also, it just fits that, you know, the sisters, quote unquote. Oh, by the way, spoilers for the Nova story. But yeah, Lumina and Neo, sorry, I keep calling her Noah. Lumina and Neo are technically sisters. In the sense that Lumina's creator was actually Neo's father. And so, and then even like, I guess like sisters are alike. But I mean, the funny thing is that like, the reason why Lumina was created was because Neo's father wanted to have something in his life to truly recreate Arya, not to get mixed up with Irie, Arya, who was quote unquote the greatest singer in universe of D4DJ, who happens to be Neo's mom. And so in a way, Lumina was supposed to be like a substitute mom, because you learn in the story that Neo's father dies of some illness. The story's not explicit on what illness it is. I think it's implied that it was cancer that he dies from. And then his final wish was that he would have this program be the new Arya, not just in singing power, because AI you can do that, because AI is amazing, but then also to be that parent to Neo that he himself failed to be. Hear more about that in my Father's Day D4DJ video. And I go into that a lot more there. But basically, with that said, part of Neo's coolness comes from like the desire to be Arya. And so by transient of logic, since Lumina is technically a recreation of Arya, that makes her the cool one. I just have to make a funny nod to that one part in the end of the Nova story, where Lumina and Neo talk, and Lumina's trying to like set up what is our actual relationship dynamic, because obviously even though Lumina's programmed to be the mom, she's obviously not her mother. And so Lumina's like, well, technically you're older physically, but since I'm an AI, I don't have a body. But
I am more mature than you. So how about you call me One-san, which is big sister. And then Neo's just like, hell no, get me out of here. I'm going back to America. But of course, that's where the plot device shows up and says, oh, actually, we can't go back to the States. Not yet. Because they're contracted under Show. And so they return to America, they would be back under his employ. And they don't want that either, so they have to stay in Japan. But then, yeah, there's a... And hopefully we'll get, like... I know they, like... Okay, so... hypothesizing for, like, the next year of, like, Groovy Mix, assuming the game survives that long. I mean, I hope it does. I like Groovy Mix. But... First, we gotta do, like, relation events within, like, Abyssmare. So, like, probably Neo and Sophia, Elsie and Veronica. I mean, maybe they could mix it up a bit. Maybe Neo and Veronica will have a relation event, and then these two. And then we'll have, like, Michiru and Kokoa and Hayate and Lumina, just to mix things up a little bit and make it more interesting. And then you gotta do some cross with, like, some cross-unit relation events. Maybe, like, half a year down the line. With, like, Abyssmare and Unicorn, or even Abyssmare and other characters. But, like, you gotta have Lumina and Neo relation event. Because that would be great. And, you know, this whole sister dynamic. Because that would be a fun thing for them to keep exploring. Because, you know, the funny thing is that, like, while Veronica views Neo as her rival, really, Neo only would have Lumina as someone to view as her rival. But then they're also, like, quote-unquote sisters. So that would be a very fun dynamic. Maybe I like the whole sisters as rivals dynamic. You know, quintessential quintuplet style or something. But, back to my point, though. Lumina is definitely the cool one of Unicorn. She's designed to be that way. And being an AI definitely helps. Kokoa is definitely the cute one. I mean, how is she not? Like, her appearance alone is like, she's really cute. I actually, when I first saw Kokoa, I actually really liked her design. See, unlike Sophia, who wears like the ugliest thing on stage, Kokoa has a very nice, like, stage uniform. It's very cute. It captures a very feminine feeling that Kokoa has. And I like it quite a bit, and she's definitely the cute one. Also, you can't deny that, whoops. You can't deny that, obviously, oh, now that thing is in the way. Hang on, I got this, I got this. I think I got this. I got this. Oh, no, now I'm blocking my, oh no. It's not working. I just have to be okay with this. That's awkward. You know what? No, I don't want to go like that either. There, I'll do it like that. Now you get to see some quick tabs that I have. Not that many, because I'm an old man and just type everything down. But anyway. Oh, I'm gonna move this a little bit more on this way. I mean, we're not putting any more characters up here anyway, so I think it's fine looking like this. But Kokoa and Hayate, which is funny because, you know, they're the first, like, official lesbian couple in D4DJ. And then, of course, it has to be the cute one and the hot one together. Which, I guess, this is what actually makes the couple look really cute, because they have that dynamic. The cute one and the hot one of the group are dating. Which I guess makes sense. Normally it is the more attractive people who are dating. That's how dating works. But that's how dating tends to happen. But anyway, Hayate is definitely, like, it's one of those funny things too, where it's like, it's super weird because they're like they're supposed to be first year high schoolers. But then Hayate is portrayed as having a much more mature figure. And that's explored not just in her stage outfit design, but even in like those funny character cards. So a little bit of context. Throughout Groovy Mix's Nova story events, when they released new character cards, they were character cards of the other characters. But all the other characters, well, let me rephrase that. The characters from the 6 main units interact with characters from Abyssmere and Unicorn, because Call of Artemis is completely absent in the Nova story. Maybe they'll do something. Maybe they'll make a return in the next volume, which should be coming out pretty soon, actually, because we're almost at the 3-year anniversary of Groovy Mix. But anyway, I'm sidetracking. The other 6 units interact with characters from Unicorn and Abyssmere. And in one of the early character cards where there's interaction with Unicorn, there was one with Hayate and Marika. And of course the story behind that is Hayate gets mistaken as a model. That's like a new model signing up to work at the agency that Marika works at. Because Hayate is like that attractive. Which is weird to say out loud, especially as an adult male talking about first year high school girls. But I mean, how am I not already on some kind of watch list? So the fact that Hayate gets confused for like actual models just exemplifies like how physically attractive she is. And so that really like, you know, that was a quick way of doing that from like the get-go. It's like, okay, Hayate's the hot one of Unicorn because she can blend in with models. And I mean, that's why Marika and Hiro are the hot ones of their groups, because they're models. So by transient of logic, if Hayate can easily pass for a model at the age of 16, by the way, then yeah, like, how is she not the hot one of the group? And I mean, Lumina technically doesn't have a body, so she can't be the cute or the hot one. I mean, I guess, see, technically Lumina could be, because she can make herself look that way. If she wanted to. The only one that Lumina couldn't be is the fat one, because she doesn't have a real body. But she could make herself look like the hot one, or the cute one. But Lumina's staying in cool, because that is her whole character sting. Now, as you have seen, for the most part, minus Lyrical Lily, who kind of messed it up, all the groups nicely fit, they nicely fit into the 4-girl gang tropes. Because once again, even though, yes, you're using the same 4 tropes for 9 different music bands, the 4 tropes work well to make distinguishable features to the characters. And what also makes it convenient is that, as you know, Groovy, it's weird to think, Groovy Mix is almost been out for 3 years. I've been playing the game for like 2 years now. That's crazy to think. I've been playing this game for almost 2 years. But as you flesh out, you know, characters and stories and want to make more stories as you keep, you know, you keep Groovy Mix going. And in the 3 years that they have, what makes using the 4-girl gang trope so helpful is that it allows you, one, to make quick stories out of like individual plots, but then also it allows you to create elements of which characters can interact with each other. So one of the fun things that was done in Groovy Mix, and this is less about like the categorizing of the characters and more about just writing in general. That's how you know we're near the end of the stream. Is that basically, for instance, in the first year and the second year had D-Fest, and maybe they'll do a D, because I think they did the Abyssmere and Unicorn thing for the 3rd year. Well, one, because they had to promote 2 new bands, and secondly, they wanted to move away from D-Fest because you can't do D-Fest every single year. Because remember, in universe, nobody ages. So you have that problem too. Quote unquote, nobody ages. But then characters have had like 2-3 birthdays at this point. So, in universe, in continuity. But anyway, something that was fun in the DFest events was that they would mix and match groups, and by falling on these tropes, you can kind of play around with that a little bit. So I made that, like, for example, I made that whole thing with like the hot one category, and so, sorry, I'm being yelled at. Give me a second. Yeah, because housemates forget that streaming is a live thing. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. So the example was that in the second DFest, they did this whole like one of the mixed match groups was like Maho, Esura, Hiro, and Marika. And so the fact that they're all the hot girls of their respective groups, you can make a story out of that. And so, the way you can make a story of how these characters who normally don't interact, you can make them interact, and relying on these tropes allows you shortcuts to do that. Of course, there are other like tropes as well that I didn't list here, but we're just working with these 4 because they were like straightforward ones. But then you could also do like there was another one where it was like, okay, you pick 2 cute ones, so you put like the Cutopia one in the first year was Mooney, Karumi, Saki, and then like Noah, because Noah has to like fawn over how cute these cute girls are. And so normally you wouldn't have Karumi and Mooney interact with the Photon Maiden girls, but by playing on these tropes, you could write a story that could do that. So the Cutopia story played out that way. And then of course you have some of the funny recent birthday events where they actually have like more than just the 3 band members celebrating their other member's birthday. They would even mix and match them. So using Maho as the punching bag again, because, I mean, D4DJ likes doing that. There was that whole thing where she's hanging out with the gym girls. So it's like her, Ibuki, Dahlia, and Yuka. And then of course the Mermaid Girls, because it was actually Dahlia. It was the Dahlia's birthday event. And then they played out this funny thing where like, well, we could fall back on the trope of Maho being the hot one. And then there was a guy who put a video on like that little interaction, and I made a joke about how like, yes, it might be Dahlia's birthday on June 1st, but we're still talking about Maho's body, because of course Maho being hot, the D4DJ writers fall back on that trope of Maho's more often than you like them to, because it does get a little bit creepy when, remember, Maho's 17. But to utilize these tropes, it makes easy ways of generating stories, especially when like the way Groovy Mix is, and how it has events like every week basically, and that means you gotta pump out story after story for these characters to interact with each other. And so the need for tropes, and yes, like the idea of needing tropes, because I know people would say like, oh, you know, like anime sucks because tropes. or stories in general suck because tropes. But tropes are necessary because they allow you some kind of foundation in order to come up with ideas for stories. Of course, it's not so much the tropes themselves that are the problem. It's utilizing tropes in an effective way. So, going back with the Cutetopia one, which was Mooney, Saki, Noah, and Kurumi, you know, and the whole punchline is that Noah just like overly reacts because it's just too much cuteness for her, and so the way you make the characters interact, you know, you can make stories easily with that, and then just have Noah be the punching bag and the punchline every time. But the tropes allow you to do that, and you have to effectively do that because, sure, the Cutetopia works the first time, but eventually, with the second D-Fest and they mix up the groups again, the writers have to find a way of having Noah freak out over cute girls again, without it being the exact same way she did with the Cutetopia story. Because in the second D-Fest, Noah was then set up with Toa, who Noah and Toa obviously have their whole straight man, funny man routine, and they go back and forth. So basically, the idea that Noah being the cool one was because Toa tends to be the funny one between them, and then Noah is the straight man in that act and keeps Toa in line. But then their roles reverse when cute girls are around, and then Toa has to be the straight man to get Noah back in line. And so now you have to utilize this trope and try to do it in an effective way when Noah has to interact with Shinobu, who is the cute girl of Piki Piki, and well, Nagisa, even though I put her in the fat girl here, Nagisa's also like super cute. I mean, it makes sense. Shinobu and Nagisa look similar, you know, being cousins and all. So how Noah interacts with them, the fact that you use these like the cute tropes and the Noah's reversal of the cool trope, it allows you that ability to write that story. And so utilizing tropes is not easy, but if you use them effectively, you can find ways of telling a lot of stories in transmedia. And that's the important thing too, that people need to be reminded of when you talk about like using tropes and why you need them. So once again, I made this comparison earlier, but D4DJ isn't like Demon Slayer, you know, it's not all about just the narrative, but rather it's about advertising something else. And so tropes allow you shortcuts where you don't feel the need to overdevelop the transmedia because you're still focusing on the bands. But with that said, that doesn't mean that people are like disinterested in the transmedia. I mean, Groovy Mix as a game has survived for almost 3 years. We're hitting our 3rd anniversary. And so if you want to keep it going, you've got to be able to keep writing. And tropes is just an easy out to do that. Now I know people are not going to like that answer, but that's how writers have to think if you want to keep writing. Because if you try to develop new ideas all the time, well, then eventually nothing is new anymore because you've done everything. But also, the creative power you would need is not something the human mind can just do, which I guess is why, you know, AI writing is going to become a thing. Because imagine if you had to keep writing for Groovy Mix for another 3 years. Well, that's going to be really hard. Of course, this is where like the shortcoming of tropes also comes in, because, you know, you can only write Noah being a total freak over the cute girls so many times. Sure, you can like mix and match. So like you could have Noah work with Elsie and Kakoa one day or something, and her freaking out about them being cute girls. But, you know, sure, tropes have their shortcoming because you can only do that joke so many times. But at the same time, if you're just there to make money in a business, but you still got to keep the transmedia going, tropes are a very useful tool on how you find quick resources to keep your transmedia going. So yeah, that's how tropes work in Dig Delight Direct Drive. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this for today. It's already been like a while, so I think this is a good place to end it. It was fun to categorize them this way, but yeah, maybe we'll come back and talk more D4DJ in the future. But I think this is gonna be it. This will hold you guys off. You know, it's crazy to think how fast time moves. The last time I did one of these was like 2.5 months ago when it was Father's Day. So maybe in another like, well, I'm not gonna wait that long. Not 2.5 months long, but you know, maybe in a month, maybe 2 months, we'll do some more D4DJ content because I know you guys like it. But with that said, hope you guys enjoyed the Streaming Parson Podcast. I'll be back on Monday for more Heroes of Might and Magic 3. And next week will be a regular week, hopefully. Just be Heroes of Might and Magic, and I'll find something different to talk about on Friday. With that said, hope you guys enjoy your Friday night. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend. And I will see you guys Monday. God bless you. And good night.